You're listening to the New World to Go podcast with your hosts, Redbyrd and BDLG.
Hello and welcome to another episode of New World to Go. I'm your host, Redbyrd, and with me is BDLG. And we have a special guest today, Ginger Prime. Now, Ginger Prime, we've had an opportunity to guest on your podcast. What? Twice for me. Is it twice for Bordy?
No, that was the first time for Bordy last time.
Yep.
One time for Bordy, and then I think Danny's been on your show.
Yeah, I've had Danny twice, I believe, twice or three times. So it's been.
So it's nice to get to return the favor.
So this is my favorite podcast, so I'm just happy to be here.
Yeah. You say that to all the podcasts. I'm sure. Well, Brian, for those of you who don't know you, why don't you give them a quick introduction to who you are and what you do?
Well, yes, thanks. And hi, everyone. This is going to be fun for me to listen to at the gym when it's my own voice again. But my name's Brian. I run a channel called Ginger Prime. I also have created a dedicated New World focused channel, Ginger World Gaming. That is, I've been able to post all the different news and my different guides. Now, I'm a primarily controller player. So as a lot of people know me from doing like Final Fantasy 14 controller guides and different content like that. And so I've got a New World controller guide, and I've been playing New World since the beta on controller and absolutely loved it. The hardest time for me and New World was the time between the August preview and then eventually the year later when the game finally launched, because I was just absolutely blown away by the game itself. And despite all of what some other content creators have stated, I'm a contrarian maybe. Because I think New World is actually just an incredible experience, an incredible game, and I'm looking forward to its future. So I've also made some kind of splashes as I've put out some spicy takes on the internet from time to time.
Yeah. You live up to the Ginger standard of
that's right.
Rage-induced, behaviors. Ginger, listen, Brian. Can I call you Brian, or you want Ginger?
Call me whatever you want, man.
I feel like Ginger. If I call you Ginger, I'm kind of insult like that. You know what I mean? I'm like using a stereotype to address you. I feel odd. Even though we're all Gingers.
Some people will, and I'm like, I don't care. It doesn't bother me. Okay. Obviously, I named my channel that. Obviously, like if you're listening to this in audio, I am absolutely the personification of Ginger.
All right.
In that regards.
We'll refer to you as the soulless one.
The soulless one. That's a great title.
Now, when you go in the gym, Brian, what are you? Are you a bodybuilder guy? You a strength training guy? You a cardio guy? What does Brian do in the gym? I think that's what we're all...
A little bit of all of it. So like Tuesday, Thursday, Saturdays is my cardio days. So that's where like I do like 45 minutes of cardio. I do like 15 minutes of abs. And then I do some stretching. And then Monday, Wednesday, Friday is strength building circuits and things like that. So I'm down like 30 pounds this year so far.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you very much. I got another 70 to go. But yeah, like the goal is just to sit here and lose the jiggle. Like I always kind of say, like when I stop walking, I want to stop moving, but I'm still a little bit too fat, so that it's like there's still a little shake even after I stop moving. So
have you seen the meme? Have you seen the meme? It's not a dad bod. I'm a father figure, or what is it? That one's pretty funny. I think
that's a good one.
Yeah, dude. It's a struggle out here, Brian. We're all past our metabolic prime, unless you're BDLG, who has made a deal with somebody or something to withhold his teenager metabolism through adulthood
right now.
Yeah, I mean,
son of a.
Yeah, so we hate him for sure, but Brian, we're in there, dude. We're working, struggling, to become Instagram models one day. So one day we'll be there, dude, no doubt. But until then, why don't we?
The men of New World, like calendar or whatever,
that's
or the content creators of New World.
That's what we got to do. All bald, and that's that. We all have to be bald,
I'm
redheaded,
redheaded,
red beard, bald, red beard, and that's how you get on the calendar. We'll make a pass for Danny. We'll have to shave his head or something like that.
Yeah, something like that, just for the calendar.
I'd like to see that one. That would be great.
Yeah, so that sounds like a great. We gotta trademark that as soon as we get off the podcast. And no one steals our idea though, because it sounds like a money making scheme for the ages. All right, well, Brian, it's good to have you with us here on the podcast. And why don't we just skip everything and hop right into our news of the week?
That's good.
Brian, listen, Brian, you're a
It was him this time,
number
not
one.
me.
I switch, yeah.
So you got to tell
Brian,
guests, Red, that
if
there's
you
this
listen to the
transition, you had
podcast,
no
yeah.
idea.
Well, Brian is an avid listener, and he made the boardy mistake. So
I was always curious as that happened. If like it was always something that I was edited out or whatever.
Yeah, it's on my end. It sounds, but it doesn't make a sound. It's weird. I can't even hear it. But then in the recording, it goes off to my
Okay.
Yeah, so, and there goes Bordy. He's back again. Well, the video is going to be fun for people for sure, because I messed up the transition too. So let's just go right in here. So New World had a Twitter competition for housing. It's been all over. You've seen people using the hashtag best Eternum abode and linking. Some people link small videos. Some people just screenshots of their housing in Eternum. Brian, are you a housing guy? Have you got into the housing side of New World yet?
Yeah, yes, and yes. But when it comes down to housing decorations, like I am just lazy. Like I had my friend Chris actually do all the wall stuff here in this room, just because I'm like, it like decoration isn't a skill. It isn't a muscle that I need to flex. But owning houses in Eternum is absolutely a joy, and so I've been saving up. Actually, I've got plenty of money now because I was telling you guys in the pre-show just about how much money I make in fishing. But what I've been saving up in terms of rank is that I'm almost able to get a tier 4 house in Morningdale. Yeah, that's the zone. And so I wanted to get that as my new house, and because I was like, yes, then I'll have an additional house. And with the taxing changes, it just felt like it was a good time to go ahead and get a second house. So I love the housing system in New World. I think especially coming from like other MMORPGs, like it feels like you're a part of the world, that you're buying an instance of that house, but it's still awesome because you're not sitting here limited on land, and then you're having a little sub game competing with other people who own that same plot of land. And so the benefits of owning a house are significant in my mind, and I really enjoy how they've done it. Obviously, I'm kind of curious to see how it evolves with time. I'd love to see a company style house or something of that nature. But beyond that, like I'm very pleased. And yes, so I am a homeowner. I'm about to have my second home in New World, and hopefully that will happen actually this week because I kind of slacked off on my Morningdale grind.
Well, it's an interesting thing. New World, I think, did from the jump did player housing pretty well. Mm-hmm. But I agree, it would be nice to have some company stuff, some company features. And dude, I think I've been getting into luck a lot recently, and like the unique housing items that you can only get in specific chests and zones in the game is pretty incredible. I don't know if you've heard of the fish bowl, the goldfish in a porcelain bowl, or the brass telescope. Have you heard of these two items? They're like They're like hard flexes in the housing department. They're like gold cap items. Basically, they're so rare, and there's like, it's just literally a goldfish that splashes around in a bowl, and it's worth like 500K gold. You can only find these housing items in really unique locations throughout the game. And It was funny, like I was watching some of the videos on Twitter, and they every once in a while you'd see that person flex their brass telescope or something. It was pretty interesting. But yeah, it's like a weird mini game that there's like very hardcore dedicated people in there, obviously competing for these best houses.
I heard goldfish in a bowl, and the dad in me was like, so they actually got like the goldfish crackers and filled a bowl of them, but then makes more sense to have an actual fish swimming around.
Yes, so these are fish. This is a fish.
That's cool. Yeah, like I've heard of some like super rare items, but it's like at the end of the day, like there's no reason for like I wouldn't. That's nothing. Even if I guess if I had gold cap to spend and I was going to get that right back, like okay, let me go ahead and invest in something, but
No,
like,
no. This is for Everfall and Windsward owners only. This mini game, and that's the golden fish in a porcelain bowl. Yeah. Bordy, you're not a housing guy at all.
Well, I mean, I will be. So my brain, my brain works in a weird way, man. I compartmentalize stuff, and I have to do things in steps to completion. So right now, I'm on like the trophy grind, getting every trophy in the game. Once I finish that, then I'll get my nice houses and I'll decorate them. But I do things in steps, man. I don't skip steps. Red, I know you have a pretty. Did you guys hear that voice crack? Holy crap! I know you have a pretty nice home in Evanscale. Did you post pictures of yours for the competition?
No, I had announced the housing competition before New World, and then they came out with it, and so it ruined mine, and so I was like, I'm not posting on that, just out of spite. But yeah, I spent a lot of time on my Evanscale house. Me and Smitty, who's our furniture guy, went through and did a lot of work in there, and yeah, I enjoy the housing. I own a tier 4, 1 tier 4, 1 tier 3, and 1 tier 2 house, and dude, it's great. I though personally am looking forward to something like a company house that you can really go crazy on, because I was an EverQuest 2 guy, and the company housing or the guild housing in that game was so much fun because you could have all these crazy trophies of raid bosses you had killed, and you create this they're basically mansions that you can have portals in and everything. It's just a lot of fun to have a place in game where your company can kind of hang out and just all be there in the in this physical space, like chilling or managing your inventory or whatever. I thought it was pretty cool. So hopefully, in the near future, they have something like that planned.
I hope that if they do have something like that planned, just like with housing, that it exists also out in the world. Like there's a space in New World where that hall is, right? In that regards, rather than being off on your own personalized island. Because the thing I enjoy about this game is being able to see other people, even from the house. Like you can go pick houses that have like a balcony that overlook the markets and things like that, and you'll see people running around. So it doesn't feel like you're so off in this own little small world. Like the world does feel so connected. So if they did bring about guild hall or guild housing, that it would use something in which that it's like, and you want to go see the studio loots, like they've got that, and it's on display, and like that I think would be something like truly, truly epic.
What do you think if they had like a humongous city in the game? That's something that I would really like to see. Like we've talked about this before on the podcast, like something like instead of like a little settlement, some really big like city. And in the city, you could only have guild housing, and the houses were like these enormous, huge houses that you could choose from. And that was kind of part of the big city. I think something like that would be pretty cool. What do you guys think about that?
Well, especially since we haven't seen all of the full map. Now we've seen kind of data leaks of things like that probably before the game launched, but at its core, like there's still so much of this land mass to explore, and a big city would be interesting. Like what would that look like in this world? And then essentially, like, I would love to see that. I'd love to see what the devs came up with, and then what kind of impact that would actually have on the flow of the game, because ultimately if it draws everybody just to that one spot, then you end up having a lot of like empty zones.
Well, so it's interesting. I like your point, Brian. I think it's a very unique thing in New World, is the ability to kind of see people's houses on display, like the top house on display as you run through. I think that adds a lot to the game. And then also being in your house and be able to look out into, the city of people, running around and doing whatever, singing naked on the rooftops and everything like that. You get that from your house. So hopefully, yes, they still hold that through the guild hall, but I am kind of in I am hoping for in a zone like Brimstone Sands. Maybe we do get like like an El Dorado or something, like, you know what I mean? This island of Turnham is supposed to be this like mystical place of lore that people have looked for throughout, exploration, through colonialism, all those other things. So hopefully there are some like hidden things that they add to the game eventually, like a nod to Atlantis or El Dorado and all these other things. I think would be really sick. And then maybe we will get like a cool big town where we get company. Like, that would be my thought, is just like that would be all the company housing, where the company housing is in a place like that. So hopefully that would be but overall, dude, I'm glad that they do things like this. Obviously, The housing in the game's great, and it's good to show it off through Twitter. I think a lot of people participated, and we'll find out the winners today. So if you put in the your screenshot or video about the for the best Eternum abode, it ends today on April 25th. So hopefully we'll hear more about the winners and get to kind of analyze the winning houses. Next thing in news, and we all are looking forward to this, the May update is coming to the PTR hashtag soon. I don't know if it's this week, maybe early next week, but May's a big one, guys. Lots of good, interesting topics, or interesting features coming to the game. And so I thought it'd be a good time to kind of pick out or kind of talk about or discuss what our favorite thing or the feature we're looking forward to the most that's coming to New World in May. We'll start with you, Ginger Prime. You're our guest. I'll put you on the spot first.
I think I probably will be echoed by this, but it's essentially the feature I'm most interested in is the PvP arena. The feature I'm most curious about is the PvP reward track. So they've already stated that the PvP reward track will progress no matter what PvP you're doing. Open world, arena, OPR, like all of that is going to fill in for this PvP reward track. But what does that look like? What is this like? How difficult is it? Is it something that expires, or is this something that they're going to continue to evolve? And I think essentially when they do release that onto the PTR, that's going to start to answer out and give us some insight as to kind of really where they're headed with the game for the rest of this year, but also probably kind of an early look at what they're thinking about for the long-term progression and PvP for the game itself. So 3v3 arena sounds interesting. They announced that you can queue up solo. It'll be interesting to see if they eventually kind of have like here's a teams kind of queue, and then here's just like a solo kind of queue, because 3 solo people versus a kind of a pre-made team of 3 is going to be at a natural disadvantage, especially if the team is in voice chat. They can communicate a little bit more freely and whatnot. But I think the PvP arenas is going to be something really, really nice. And I hope that it's the hope here is that it is normalized, and so that you can start participating in it maybe like after level 25 or something. So you're not sitting here have to wait till level 60 to take part in this other kind of form of PvP. So that's just what I'm kind of generally the most curious about, is that once that's added in, how does that feel? I'm not worried about balance. I know a lot of people raise hell about balance, but in an MMORPG, balance is something that's going to come and go, and they're going to work and tweak on it. I'm more interested in execution in terms of like how easy is it to get into a mode? How is it fun, even if it doesn't feel balanced? If a certain weapon's not performing, I think that data is going to go back, and then you'll see some tuning and adjustments. But I generally hear people complain about balance, but it's usually people probably who lose a lot, and maybe then I'm just biased because I tend to at least have a greater than 50% win chance, and I'm like, all right, that's fun.
Yeah, well, I think you bring up a good point, and that is we don't know a lot about like the availability of PvP in the early stages of the game, the arenas, because that was one of my complaints with Outpost Rush, and I know a lot of people felt the same. Was like you had to wait till 60 to even get into it, so it's kind of, I don't know, like when I level in video games or MMO specifically, if there is a PvP track, I almost always go down that track. Guild Wars 2 provided that for you. Elder Scrolls Online provided that for you. I would like to see New World have a game mode like arenas that maybe are unranked at lower levels, but did give you an opportunity to kind of level in that manner. Yeah, and I think that'd be great. So I this is something we haven't covered a lot on the show. I think is a great point too. I would like to see those arenas available at lower levels. Bordy, what are your thoughts on the PvP arenas and PvP reward tracks coming to the PTR soon?
I'm just excited for them. I think they answered a lot of our questions about what to expect in the last little dev video. A couple of my big questions were like, could you queue up in like solo, or did you have to queue up in a group, and all of those types of questions. They answered those, but there's still a lot left to be desired. Like, can you queue up at a lower level? I think that's a pretty huge one, and I'm glad you guys brought that up, because I hope you can. I hope it's a way to maybe even potentially like level your character a little bit, like you were talking about, like you could with Guild Wars or whatever. That would be pretty cool. Give give people of lower level an option to do those things. I have kind of a I don't know, a gut feeling that it's not going to be for whatever reason. I feel like it's going to be level 60 only. I don't know why I feel that. Maybe they'll add it later on with other levels, but I feel like it's going to be an in-game thing. But yeah, I don't know. I'm excited to see, man. I'm excited to test it out. I'm excited to jump on the PTR and see what kind of meta emerges. You and I were talking a little bit before the podcast, Red, about what type of meta we think is going to come out of it, and that'll be interesting to see. That'll be fun to see how all that plays out. So, I mean, obviously, the thing that I'm interested in most is testing out the arenas, and the reward track is a good conversation as well, because what are we going to get from that thing? You know what I mean? Like, is it going to be items that we're going to get that like PvE puts us at an advantage where PvE players can't get them? Because I hope that's not the case. Like, I don't know what we're going to see coming out of that reward track, but all of those questions, I guess we'll find out soon whenever it's the PTR. But I'm incredibly excited about 3v3 arenas, though. That's my style of PvP. I like that so much better than large scale like wars, 50v50. They're fun, but not as much fun to me as like small scale, intimate, like very heavily skill based PvP. I like that so much better. So I am super excited to see how those work out on the PTR.
When it comes to the reward track, I know that like from a PvP player perspective, it is frustrating when the game forces you into PvE content to progress. Yeah. And so hopefully the PvP reward track can end up offsetting that. Now, if you like doing PvP and PvE, there's never been an issue with that. Like, oh, cool, I go run some dungeons and do this over here, then I jump over here and have fun and, et cetera. But when it's like, hey, I'm playing this game as a primarily PvP, I'm always flagged, I'm always et cetera. Why do I have to go do mutators if I want to try and progress? And they brought some of those rewards into OPR, which I think was a really good choice. But now we have the track. And then the other question that's kind of looming in the back of my mind when we think about the monetization and future of this game, it doesn't sound like the PvP reward track is a battle pass or something that you purchase, but we do believe that they're going to be talking about that at some point. And my bet would be sometime later this year. And then essentially, like, does that evolve into something that players purchase? Because like with this reward track, is this when the first hit's free and then and later reward tracks are buy the reward track to progress or something on that? I don't honestly know. I'm just kind of generally curious to see what we'll be able to learn from the May PTR, and I honestly think it's going to be quite substantial.
Yeah, well, that's a great point. I can't imagine them adding that specific reward path now and then trying to monetize it later. But I mean, it kind of brings up another point and something that we're going to talk a little bit later with the regional server transfers and the first actual like non-cosmetic item added to the cash shop. Is what do they need to add to the cash shop to ensure, obviously we all care about the stabilization of the game and obviously, they can't just continue to make things for free forever. They're going to have to figure some monetization strategy other than cosmetics.
I think the battle pass makes the most sense if they don't let it expire, meaning that after the season or whatever that battle pass piece of content's time frame is that you still own it and keep it and you can still grind on it. Because like one of the things that stresses me out about Destiny all the time is you have a window, and if you're in that window passes and then then it's gone. Where in Halo's got a lot of work to do, but they at least let you own that battle pass and you can pick what battle pass you want to grind on. They're going to be adding in their second battle pass here soon, so we'll actually have a visual indication of how that works, and hopefully they get their progression system kind of fixed. But my whole vote actually comes down to I think if you have a battle pass in an MMO and you let the players keep it, I think then imagine people coming into the game 2 years from now and being able to bundle like all the previous battle passes up and sell that to players. Like when you think of a monetization structure, yeah, just go grind on the content. And it turns out like you're coming into the game, you started 2 years later, and here's like 4 or 6 or 8 battle passes that we're going to sell you as a part of a collector's edition version of the game. That's like thousands of hours of content, and then they can still monetize the work that they did without feeling like it's too much FOMO, that fear of missing out, that basically drives a lot of the current battle pass market.
Yeah, you mentioned, I think we talked a little bit about that on your podcast, and I think I'd never heard of that at all. I think it's a great thing to do in games. I can't imagine the downside of that, actually.
Yeah, I
unless
can't-
unless
I'm-
it's like a you want it to be exclusive to the people that play a lot to make people force.
Yeah, but that's such a. I think that's such kind of a gatekeeping mindset, because the work that somebody can put in, you could actually and then make the tiers or some of the things in the battle pass challenging, right? So it's like, if you want to get to this extra, like there's no written rules, right? They could really kind of design it any way they want. But I think the community that would not like that are kind of on the smaller side, where it's like, yeah, you maybe want an exclusive. My whole thing, that the one argument I've heard that I actually think is valid that's against that idea, in terms of that like, here's the current season, everybody's on the current season, is that you're kind of taking part in that hype from a marketing perspective. Like, you want to get in this game now because this is what's going to be available to you, and then it's going to be gone later. And my whole like counter to that would be, is like, we'll just make the previous battle passes harder to grind. Like, say that normally, let's say it takes this long to get X long to get it, make it take 5 times that in a previous battle pass, because you're not a part of the current season. Because the current season is what the marketing's pushing, it's what people are playing and are excited about. But there are counter views to it in and of itself. So that's just what I've heard.
Yeah, and dude, you said Halo does it. I just never heard of it before. I think it's a great idea if you can pull it off. And yeah, I don't know. I think it's one of those things that battle passes, I think, oftentimes have a negative connotation to them in video games because of that reason, because they're time gated. They force you to log in every day. That's one of the things that get frustrating. When me and BDLG went back to ESO, something that was irritating was like, I felt like I just had to log on. Like, there was no reason that I was actually logging on. I just had to make sure that I logged in my character every day to make sure I hit that like 28-day reward or whatever.
I hate that.
And it's annoying. It's actually just, it's very off-putting.
It works until it doesn't. It's a concept that works until it doesn't. It means that you hit that dopamine, you do get that daily engagement. But what I feel like, just from the people that I've talked with on these online games, is I feel that later that ends up bringing so much animosity towards the game that they not just stop logging in, they campaign against it. Like, this game sucks. Like, I've seen this, and I don't know if you guys see this in your comments. I've played this game for 5,000 hours and it's trash. Like, okay, so we got to break down that statement and that mindset. You've put 5,000 hours into trash? No. You actually put some amount of time and you enjoyed that. But then you were left with that gap in dopamine, and then eventually, like, you got to a point where the drug addict mindset in you is just like, you had to like rip the Band-Aid off. And then you have to do it in such a way that is like legitimately cutting the cord. I had that same experience in Destiny at one point, where like when Destiny 2 launched, I was so pissed off that I had to not only like stop playing the game, but I had to defollow anybody talking about it on Twitter or on YouTube. And I just kind of had to have a clean break from that game for a long period of time before it's like, okay, now I can actually like legitimately look at what my copeability was in that process. And a lot of it ends up being is that the game makes you feel like you have to be logging in or you're missing out. And this is something we've seen happen negatively in WoW. I've seen this happen negatively in 14, where I see a lot of players who like enjoy that game all of a sudden do a whole 180, and then they're just like anti the game. And it's like, okay, there was what happened? How do we analyze that? How do we solve for that problem? And that's where one of the things, like, while New World had that, like with the bunny event, the Corrupted Rabbits one, where you log in, get these things. Like, at least for me at this point, I don't feel like I have to log into New World daily. And I appreciate that about the game so much that I do want to log in, not because the game's forcing me, but because I enjoy my experience, not because I'm being artificially led down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, my counter to daily logins is always the same. It's always, well, if you have to have a daily login to log into the game, why are you trying to force people to log into your game for a gimmicky manner? Just make the game good, and people are going to log into the game. Like, I hate daily logins, man. That's one of the things I hated about ESO. It's like, dude, I don't want to have the feeling of FOMO whenever what if I want to go on vacation for a week, man? You know, what if I want to go on vacation for a
Yeah.
week? Do I have to take my laptop with me and log into the game so I don't miss out on stuff? Like, dude, come on, man. I don't want to do that. It feels like a job at that point, and it's not fun.
Right.
Just make the game good, and people will log in every day. That's all you got to do. And I mean, I know that's a lot, harder or a lot easier said than done, but it's like, I don't know, man. The whole gimmick of daily login rewards, I hate that, man. I hope New World doesn't ever go that route.
The old adage is, it's old wisdom, but it's true, but absence makes the heart grow fonder. Like when you're taking, like, whether it's a day break or a week break, but when you all of a sudden you're like, I'm excited to log in and I can't wait to get back into the game. I think it adds a longer tail to somebody who's playing the game. But we do know for a fact that, like, the psychology behind it works. And that's why I always say it works for a time. It will work on you because you're going to get that dopamine hit every time, but then eventually you're going to need more hit, and there isn't actually any more. And essentially then your brain, and you start getting frustrated and you start chasing after that, and you can't find it because the reward isn't there and they can't adjust quick enough. So I always kind of say it's better to avoid it. Like you said, Bordy, like, make a good game, make it fun, make it enjoyable, and don't rely on the DAUs, the daily active users. Look at it over the course of a 30-day period. Are people engaged? Are people having fun and playing this game? And I think that's actually a better sign of long-term health. And this is also going against the game right now. Right now, there's this thought process that because it's not drawing in 900,000 concurrents, that it's a failure. And it's like, that is, in my mind, like, absolutely, like, ludicrous. I think it doesn't even take into account what MMORPGs are. No game is bringing in 900,000. Hell, Lost Ark's doing great, though. Like, it's like, we're going to sit here and praise, like, a game. It's like the fact that Lost Ark's continue to hold on to its spot and growing in terms of its concurrence shows that the best way to launch an MMO is 3 years later. Like, once you've had 3 years worth of content and testing off on an island somewhere, like, then you bring it to the world.
And that's an insane conversation in and of itself. It's one I have to constantly have with people. It's like, well, they're always like, I think New World needed about a year. Yeah, but you could say that perpetually for another 10 years. You know what I mean? That's just how the games work, it seems like, right? It's like Lost Ark has been out forever. And there's still things when they brought the game, and you cover MMOs just like we do. I mean, you look at how crazy successful that game was at launch. And even now, we just looked at it this morning at 500,000 concurrent players. And then you still get these negative connotation from people that cover games about the content in the game, or, not being able to reach a certain point in the game quick enough. And all these other things that, that's a debatable thing about Lost Ark because of the gacha mechanics, or the pay to win mechanics.
That's the thing, is that people complain about that, but then they don't. Like, I've heard so many people that were like, I'm never going to play a free to play MMO. But Lost Ark, I'm having fun. Like, oh, guys, you do whatever. Like, it's like, I think I love gamers, but there is such a level in which that it's like, I wish there was more consistency in people's worldview. They kind of form teams, like there's tribalism that clearly can happen within that. I feel like sometimes people feel that their MMO is under threat by the success of another MMO. And so they have to kind of go out of their way to sit here and try to dunk on things. But I think that's why I stated, and I'm working on a video about it, but it's called MMORPGs Where Good Ideas Go to Die. Because the community in and of itself, like, you have to survive for 3 years. Like, once you hit like a 3-year marker, like, chances are you're going to be doing just fine. But generally before that, it's just going to be like a war of attrition to try and build up the concept of trust. And that's what Amazon's doing right now with New World. I think Lost Ark in a way helps them as just a service to kind of learn, and things like that, as well as they're working on a third MMORPG, which is just absurd. It makes me go, what kind of data did they have? We went from WildStar in 2014, which shut down, to New World in 2021. And then there's been a whole series of like indie MMOs that have been trying to launch and trying to find their footing, like between that. But between AAA MMOs, there really isn't any. And to see MMO players who state publicly that they like the genre and then are rooting against New World to fail, it is like you're shooting yourself in the foot, because you're then going to go and complain about whatever your game is and why it like isn't evolving or why it isn't doing this. And it's like, do you understand that people will not take risks if there is not going to be any potential opportunity to win? No one's going to go spend hundreds of millions of dollars to make this genre that you love if there's no way that they're going to ever make money. And if you root for every game that comes out to fail, like eventually your game's going to go away, because guess what? You're going to hit that point where you don't like it anymore, where you put that 5,000 hours, and guess what? They won't take risks because you keep telling them, if you take a risk, I'm going to go against you. And then the genre in and of itself can't be sustainable. So sorry, I'm a little bit impassioned about this. Anyway, I'll end my rant and let you guys weigh in.
Well,
no, it's fine. I think that's good because it's like a valid conversation to have, I think, because it drives me nuts. That whole situation drives me nuts. The situation that you're talking about right there. It's like, why I don't understand the mentality of, like, it seems like MMO players in general just have this mentality of they want things to fail. It's this weirdest thing ever, man, and I don't understand it. I can't grasp it. It's crazy. Yeah. I guess it's just all these clickbait videos and everybody just falling into the traps without actually experiencing the game themselves. I don't know what it is, but yeah, it's a weird mentality, man.
New World's business model, though, I think opens itself up to really kind of change the game. I've been answering and fielding lots of questions from returning players, which there are. Like, the New World's been seeing a nice breadth of players who played at launch, and then they went and played all the other games that have came out. New World was up against Final Fantasy XIV's Endwalker expansion, Guild Wars 2 expansion, Elden Ring, like the number of these big, massive games. I was like, yeah, New World it's gonna struggle. It's gonna have a hard early 2022 because of just the sheer amount of stuff that's going to be available. People want to play, but it's going to be about how do they invite people back in. So I'm seeing a lot of people return, and I think that's a good sign of health that is the case. And here's the thing: if you're listening to this podcast at this point in the show and you're debating on if you should return, it costs you nothing. You can go and just update your game, and you can start playing, and you can see for yourself if they've addressed the issue that maybe had you take a break or what have you. Was the leveling too difficult? Like, that's been fine-tuned, etc. So I think that's a good sign of health overall for the game, and I think they have the right business model in which that you're not charging a subscription, but in that mindset you still see the old school mindset of like, oh, a subscription-based MMO is the only like business model that works for the genre, but that's not really true. There's only two primarily subscription-based games, and they're doing okay. And everybody else is starting to kind of try to find what is the actual next evolution for the MMORPG. And that's where the Battle Pass, like, kind of bringing this conversation full 360. That's where I think that's going to be the most interesting in terms of its implementation. But we don't know yet. That's going to be something that I'm looking forward to finding out in 2022.
Yeah, and that's kind of the test of time is, what piece of content, and I think everybody's looking to fall, will be enough, or, a big enough update to bring all those people back that do already own the game. And that's like, to your point about the free content is not, they've done a lot to the game. The game's in the best state. At least I haven't played a lot of the April update because it just went live today. But before the April update, the game was in the best place that it had been since launch. So people that return and try the game out, they could do that for free, like you said, because none of the content was technically paid for. So it seems like through fall and up until the Brimstone Sands update, all this content is going to be free. So they really do have a chance to recapture a lot of those people. And even in May with the arenas, have a lot of those people come back.
And the summer event, like we got a new summer event that's going to be kind of the opposite of the winter solstice. The party dungeon finder, which we now know it's not match made, which makes me happy, but it's also listing so people can find content to jump into. Which is going to be interesting to see how that kind of plays out. Does that solve the problem? I've stated they needed that anyway, because as they add in dungeons, eventually the shout chat's just going to get too much. You're going to turn it off. You're not going to pay attention to it. But listing can then be, hey, we're in, you can find the party and jump in right through the tool. So I'm very excited about that. And then I think the biggest thing on New World in terms of its future, I think it's about the first expansion. I think that an expansion model makes the most sense, but we don't yet have a pattern to predict off of its model. And I think essentially one of two things. If they are able to hit, and I don't think we'll get an expansion like in the fall, but let's say they set it up for the spring or something. They either need to focus in on kind of a yearly expansion, kind of the ESO model, so that you can predict like every spring, New World has a brand new expansion, and and that's the model, and then you have the seasonal stuff to kind of compensate for that. Or if they don't think they can hit a yearly model, when they announce the first expansion, they should also announce the second expansion. And just like with what Guild Wars 2 did, saying, hey, we're also working on another expansion. So that can start to get people to help build out that trust. Because one of the big reasons why people are hesitant to start or hesitant to return is because they've seen some big YouTuber or something like that state that, oh, the game's failed and it's dying and it's dead. And it's like, that's actually far from the truth. Like, we got healthy servers. We got a population that's really excited about the game, and we got people who are returning, and we got people who are starting the game for the first time. We have to change that mindset, and the only way to, my mind from a marketing PR perspective is like, it'd be so easy for me to sit here and say, and we got an expansion next spring. In a year, there's going to be a brand new expansion. It's got all this cool stuff we're excited about, and some stuff that we're not sure of. Like, yeah, you should totally come play, because we already know that there's even more than beyond the fall, and I think that's something they had to figure out for themselves. But that would be my strategy if I was in charge.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is all kind of, I guess, good discussion to have for the lifelong health of New World, because really, I think your point, if they're going to bring in new people that haven't played the game yet, it's going to be in an expansion setting at this point, and they really do have to get that fine-tuned and also predictable, like you said. I think those are two main things. But all right, guys, well, that was great about the May update. We should see that again, guys, probably late this week or early next week, I would guess. And we'll get to try out arenas. We'll give you obviously our first take here, as well as over at newworldfans.com. Let's hop right in, because we did get an actual update today to our main topic of the week. All right, so, well, I did it again. Gosh dang it. Okay, so basically today, before we started the podcast, we got the April update. It did download and go live. We had an opportunity to log in for a brief moment. There were some bugs. Hopefully we'll get worked out at some point today. But overall, this was supposed to be a bug fix and quality of life update, just similar to the one that we got in, I believe, February, right before the March for the blunderbuss. So this will be the patch leading up to, like we said, the big introduction to arenas. So we did get some quality of life changes that we want to go over here today. So not a ton new stuff, but we will kind of break down a lot of this for you. So the main one, in my opinion, or one of the biggest ones, in my opinion, is the healing changes. You can now assign your targets for push keys. I got in there, and basically it's just you go into your key assignment tab, and you can basically assign each of the 5 group members to a button or a key on your keyboard. So, Bordy, we'll start with you this time. What are your thoughts on the healing changes in that quality of life department in New World?
I think those are excellent, man. I don't heal, so I haven't messed with it at all, and I probably won't for a really long time, just because that's not a role that I'm interested in the game. But I do think, just for the longevity and like health of the game as a quality of life update, it's huge, man. For people that do heal, I know it's been a pain point for those guys, and I know you heal a little bit, Red, so it's been a pain point for you too. So I'm glad they're bringing that into the game, man. It's a needed addition and a good one.
Brian, you do any healing in New World?
Oh yeah, so my 2 main roles are healing and tank, and I tend to actually go into the healer set. I have the best gearing on my healer right now, and also the fun thing is that I play this game on controller, so I've been healing on controller, and there's just been a few things that I wish I could do. So for those of you who don't know and aren't watching in the video, like I have self heal, which is essentially holding down on the left bumper, so I can heal myself, I can target myself if needed really quickly. And then I have it set to left and right on the D-pad to cycle through the targets. The problem is that in a pinch, when I'm like, okay, this target, then this target, because it focuses on left to right, rather than like a hierarchical order of the party list. But setting this, and what I was telling you guys in the pre-show, I'm going to see if I can't figure out a way to make it easy just to sit here and focus target on a specific person. So them adding this thing is huge for me. I don't yet know how I'm going to make it work on controller. So that's going to be some fun challenge that I kind of try to work out this week and test out. But even outside of that, just the fact that I could even, because like being that this is PC game, I do have access to keyboard and mouse. So I'm not completely like, oh no, I could easily also still set it for that focus. Like, oh, I need to hit this guy in the moment. And that's been the hardest weakness of the current healing meta, is that like you have to be a little bit more pre-gaming in your healing, because all of a sudden things can go south, and so you don't want anybody to ever start getting too low. This allows, I think, a little bit more the strategery, if you will, when it comes down to healing, because if I can directly target you now with just a simple button press, that's gonna save me all kinds of time, and that's gonna save me all kinds of stress, because generally speaking, if I ever messed up, it was that I overcompensated. So I ended up missing and healing the guy who didn't need it. And then it's like, damn it, so excuse me. I don't know if we're allowed to curse on this podcast, but
well, you're allowed to do whatever you want, Brian. Yeah, the healing has been a chronic problem for me. I typically try to, get into healing in most MMOs that I play. And New World's system with the wheel mouse targeting, it was pretty bad. I mean, especially for a game that came out in 2021, have like no targeted healing system or no smart targeting healing system, which a lot of people don't.
That would have fixed it. Right. Like, I want to obviously heal the person who has the lowest health, or like you could you could even write some rules to where it's like, okay, I want to kind of build in like a healing spell that macroing, in certain things, but yeah, we don't have that ability yet.
No macros, Brian. No, don't suggest macros in New World, please.
A macro for hot gear swapping. Let's go. Final Fantasy 11, baby. Let's bring that back.
Just give us a nice wardrobe. No macros, please. The healing's definitely needed the upgrade. I think I haven't had a chance to heal with it, but I'll probably try to get into a dungeon later today and try it out. But it can't be it can't have made it worse. Let's just say that, because the single target healing system in New World was pretty bad. Even the like dropping like the sacred ground was also a pain, because you try to drop it on your tank, and then a DPS would run in front of you, and then all of a sudden your sacred ground's like way off, like to the side, and then not on the tank, and it was just a disaster. So hopefully this will fix it. Another one, a big one that we weren't sure was going to happen today, but did get put in, was regional server transfers. Now, this is a massive upgrade to, not only, I feel like not only to the regional, like wanting to switch regions, but just quality of life in general in New World. Now we can buy a server transfer and use it. Now, they did clear this up, and I'll do this for our audio listeners real quick. A regional server transfer, basically you buy the server transfer, you transfer regions, and I believe that does not consume your token. So it
does. What happens is that you get regions, it randomly assigns you to a server, and then they issue another token that lets you go in. So it's for free. So it's like, hey, you're over here. There is one issue where, like, if you've already had a character previously like on that region, it could cause problems. They are working on that as a bug fix overall, but generally speaking, I'm absolutely with you guys. This is huge, and we've waited a long time for this, and I'm just happy to see that in place. And also the fact that they've made it $15, like, that's great. You guys want to hear something that probably will get your blood boiling?
No.
Well, tough. I literally saw somebody was calling this a pay-to-win system, and I was like, I asked my Discord about it. I was like, am I out? Am I wrong? Like, I've never seen a server transfer token being described as pay-to-win, and their argument is that because you could technically go to another world, pick up materials for cheap, sell it for more money, and then buy best in slot gear, that is a pay-to-win system. And I go, are gamers insane? Like, have we lost any real metric or understanding of what pay to win is? And the thing is that I think people have just overused that term as some kind of label of attack, that you've completely destroyed it. Like, at the end of the day, you're an adult. It's your money. If you want to go throw it away on a video game, that's fine. But if you want to spend $30 to try and make just a little bit of coin, so like, it's easier just to play the game than it is to sit here and waste $30 in hopes of, no guarantee, but in hopes that you might make a profit. And that stuff does sell. For me, I was just like, Gosh, I hate Twitter so much.
Yeah,
It's
we were
not
joking.
Twitter. It's the internet, Brian. But
Yeah, I was on in Discord last night with the company joking around about that because I've seen some people post that and I made a comment about it being pay to win, just jacking around, and it's just kind of funny that people go to those links, like I don't know that somewhere along the lines of MMOs, people have lost the true definition of what pay to win actually is, and so everything now is almost pay to win. I can understand the sentiment, but still, you're not paying money for direct advantage. You're paying money. You're moving over to a server. You would have to still spend the time and effort farming that material, which is going to take you forever to come back over to the other server to sell it. It's like, dude, come on, man. Like, really, it's not really pay to win. So I agree. It was kind of funny. It's one of those things. I do kind of wish they would increase the cooldown though from 24 hours. Like, I feel like 24 hours might be a little bit too little, but maybe coupled with the $15 price tag, maybe we won't see a lot of people just server hopping a whole lot, and I hope not. But we'll see. I was hoping that the cooldown would be a little bit longer than 24 hours, but maybe it won't be a big deal.
yeah, it's tough because obviously, people. I can't imagine needing this server transfer unless you're multiple times in a row, like in a 24-hour cadence, unless you're trying to server hop and sell stuff. But if that's their prerogative, then so what? I think, again, they do have to play the game. You can't just go and just buy up a bunch of Ori with dollar bills. I mean, that's just not how it works. You still have to go transfer the server and gather all that stuff, and you would have to transfer to sell it and vice versa. But I mean, there's going to be some people that do that. But I think generally, it's just, that would take away from the actual like benefit or the quality of life that this provides, and that is people being able to transfer off a server that's dead, people being able to transfer off a server that's toxic, which those are the two things that I really have seen with the free server transfer token era, which is basically like you used it, like we had this happen to us a lot. People would use their free server transfer token to get to us, and then our server would die. And so then, no, we couldn't be there anymore. So we would transfer off with our free token, and the people that use their free token are stuck on that server that's dead. Right. And we've also been in the same circumstance where you get on a toxic server where it's just ran by a super company or two, and they decide who gets the rest of the territory. And that's also really like, for most people that want to play the game or enjoy it on a casual manner, that's not something people want to deal with either. So I think these regional server transfers overall are going to be a huge benefit to the game.
Oh, yeah. I know a lot of people who are like, oh, I started off in West. I'd like to come play with you guys because y'all seem pretty cool and chill. And it's like, that's what we are. Like, we're pretty casual, like in that regards. And I love that aspect of it. Sometimes we get sweaty. Sometimes we get but that's going to be a value of life. But like, if you want that experience, like, oh, and you're on the West, like, you don't want to like leave all that progress. Like, I wouldn't want to leave that. No. Like, I wouldn't leave that progress if I was like, oh man, I want to go play.
There is zero chance I'm releveling my gathering and crafting stuff ever again. So
I've been enjoying it. I've got the secondary character on Hono, so it's like, yeah, just kind of casually kind of playing around with it.
Did you ever so relaxing. Did you ever get in our company, or did you ever get?
No, I'm not in the company yet because I haven't hit that level. Like when I say casually, like I think I just hit level 6. So it's like, yeah, I'm just kind of. No, I won't even take up a spot yet until like, but at the end of the day, like it's fun to kind of test out the experience. I'm not doing like a Damon Kim where he like did it all within like 24 hours or 48 hours or like that.
Yeah, he had double XP, but he did like kill it for sure.
Tip of the hat for that. Like I was like, thanks for doing that. So I didn't even feel tempted to. But it's at its core, I was like, yeah, like it's just, oh gosh, I love this. I love the feel of this game so much that it's just like, yeah, I like that I don't feel rushed. And so that this, I think the regional server transfers was usually the number one question that I was getting. Hey, when's this coming? And I thought it was coming later. The fact that it's here today.
Well, they said thrilling. They hinted at it would be soon after the April
soon
updates.
after.
Yeah,
and then like, oh yeah, soon after meant day of. Got it. Great.
Yeah, well, we will take it for sure. So if you're looking to join a different server or move even regions now, you can do so today, April 25th. It's live on New World. Two things that I want to mention real quick is they are bringing the Tempest Heart Mutation. Now we thought we would get it last month with the dungeon, but it is here in April. We assume the rotation should happen tomorrow, right? So we should, because now this is another thing we're going to talk about. There are 2 mutations active at once. So now we should be on a rotation that technically is Genesis and Dynasty. And then next week we should get Laz and the Tempest Heart Mutation for the first time ever. We'll all have to start leveling up our codexes there. But dude, what do you guys think about the 2 mutation system being active now, because they kind of snuck that in here right before the update, and now getting the Tempest Heart Mutation all in the April update? Kind of a nice little sneaky addition. Brian, we'll start with you.
I love it because I think it gives more option to players, especially let's say you particularly don't like a certain mutation. You still have option and content to choose from, and so it gives us that ability. What I really hope more than anything else, though, like I'm glad Tempest is getting there, but I'm not strong enough yet to go and do that. So that's coming up hopefully here in the next couple of weeks for me. What I hope more than anything else, though, is that we start seeing the other expeditions having mutated versions apply to them. Because, like, you look at Starstone, like that is such a beautiful dungeon. I would love to see what that would be like if they were going to throw that into the mutation system. Same thing for even Amrine. Like, it's like, or the depths. Like, it's like, I love the dungeons, aka expeditions, in this game, and I would love to see that brought in. And then essentially, then you would see the bigger rotator, but I don't know if there's any kind of update or plans for them to do that anytime soon, but I like it. It's player choice. This gives us 4 mutated dungeons. And so you can kind of have, like every other week you get, you can pick one or the other or do both if you wish. Gives you more content to level if that's the kind of the challenge you're looking for. So I don't necessarily see any kind of disadvantage unless, I'm open for opinions if anybody disagrees.
Well, Bordy, tell us.
I don't disagree at all. I'm glad that they added a second one. I wouldn't be mad at them if they just left them all open all the time. I can see where that would maybe cause some problems, but I don't know, man. I'm happy that they did it. The more dungeons they add, the more restrictive it becomes whenever there's only one available at a time. So I think it was a good time to do it. I think it was a good time to add 2 to the rotation. I would imagine once we get even more expeditions into the game, we'll see even more added. Like I would assume that at some point there'll be like a 3 expedition rotation a week, and then probably a 4, and so on as they add more throughout time. But I love it, man. I love being able to just choose which one I want to go do, because there were weeks there where no one ran expeditions because it was Dynasty and nobody does Dynasty. So there was probably weeks where they looked at the data and they're like, yo, dude, nobody's doing expeditions this week at all. Like, what are we going to do about that? And so then they opened up 2. Yeah. So I love it, man. I'm all for it.
Well, and we haven't played the Tempest Heart Mutation yet, but it may be the same. It may be like we're just alternating between Jen and Laz. That was an unfortunate combination of those 2 words there. But yeah. So we're gonna get. It'll be fun to see how that works out. I think at some point, not only are we going to get the past 3 mutations that we don't have yet, but we're going to get another element, I would hope. Not just fire and void. It's just kind of shafting the mages pretty hard for mutations right now. So hopefully we start to see some different, like, arcane or...
Didn't they confirm that as well? Like, so new things are coming within the mutator rotations, etc.
Yeah, they said they mentioned, they kind of hinted at it when they were doing the roadmap, basically saying that there's a ton of things we still need to get in here too that aren't mentioned in the roadmap that will be coming in during this period. And one of those things they mentioned were the mutation of the earlier dungeons. They're still trying to figure it out, which I'm not even sure, honestly, they figured out the scaling situation with Dynasty yet. And Dynasty was only a 10, because regular Dynasty is what, level 55, right? Or 50-ish?
Yeah, 55.
Yeah, so I'm not even sure they figured out that scaling yet, from 55 to 65. So I don't know. I don't blame them for wanting to figure out a 25 to 65 scale, because Amrine could be a complete nightmare to run if that is not figured out correctly. But yeah, so they're gonna figure out the scaling there. But overall, I think obviously the more the merrier. This is the in-game content right now, boys. On the PvE side is running mutations. We've been doing farming 10s now for a while, and there is no more rewarding event or activity in the game then farming mutation or level 10 mutations. You just get so many exotics, or not exotics, legendaries. You know what I mean? It's just so many shards.
It's worth it. It's high value, high driven reward content.
Yeah, and so then that's kind of it. So they do need to definitely expand upon this as soon as possible. But it's good to see. I'm excited to try Tempest Heart Mutations tomorrow, as we anticipate. But
yeah, man, I'm looking forward to watching that.
hey, man, if you want to see a guy on the ground point of view, watch Bordy. And then, if you want to see,
everybody knows that's not true, man. Everybody knows that
statistically.
If you're healing, though, you should be able to keep them up, right?
I'll probably be healing tomorrow. System. Yeah, I finally got my healing set up to M10 status, but I guess we won't need that for a while in Tempest Heart, because we'll be starting at Mutation 1 again, which is a completely different conversation, I think. Having to go back, we're at 10s in Lazarus and Genesis, and then every week we got to go back to 3 for Dynasty. It's kind of a weird a weird
till you get
thing.
the codex up.
Yeah, till you get the codex up. Dynasty, obviously Tempest will be starting at level 1 there. So one last thing that I want to talk about real quick is the raffle bone changes. Now any raffle bone in a high level zone should be up to 66, level 66, which means he will drop up to 600 gear. Now, this is like one of my complaints about Raffle Bones. I feel like Raffle Bones is one of those things or these experiences in New World that should be like an in-game thing, right? Raffle Bones is fun to find. He's very, very rare. But, it was always like disappointing to me to find him in zones that he would not drop max level gear on. Like, because I killed Raffle Bones in Reekwater, you would think, I'm going to get something I can, maybe potentially use. And he drops a 530 legendary that we can't, or a 530 epic that he can't upgrade. And so hopefully this fixes some of that. But I would like to see Raffle Bones like static level 66 all across the world. Bordy, we'll start with you. What do you think about the Raffle Bone changes here?
I think they're good for sure, because you're right. Killing Raffle Bones before was pretty underwhelming, especially whenever you only found him. Dude, it was hard to find. I think I've only killed him like three or four times maybe, and I've kind of hunted for him a few times, and it's just hard to find, and that's intended. So I do think that that this change will be great, because now we'll actually get gear that's worth it whenever we kill him, which is nice. Because whenever you find him, or if you're lucky enough to find him, I think you ought to be rewarded with something good.
Yeah, absolutely. Brian, have you found Raffle Bone yet?
I have yet to see him. I usually have been spending
rare.
my time fishing, and so it's like I am very much excited for the time where hopefully I run across him, because that's something that I want. I've been, ever since they put him on the PTR, I spent some time running around trying to see, like, hey, maybe I can catch some footage of Raffle Bones for for a video, and it's like, and no. So I've yet to run across one. I have been in chat with people in the company, or just we're all hanging out kind of playing New World, and somebody goes, hey, what's a Raffle Bones? I was like, why? And he's like, he just disappeared in front of me. I started fighting him and he disappeared. I was like, let me know. I would have teleported out to you. I would have loved to have at least captured me, trying to fight one for the first time. But I'm happy this change, though, is been implemented. I think that's going to help high level stuff. I think that's going to make interesting Raffle Bone farming parties. Like at the end of the day, I think that's a nice addition that they've added, along with just kind of making the world a little bit more vibrant, a little bit more random.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, hopefully I would really, again, like to see him change to max level. That way you can hunt him all over a tournament. It would bring life to the older zones as well, or the lower level zones. And I always thought it was cool leveling up in an MMO and having a mob spawn out of nowhere that had skulls on it, or that had I couldn't damage that mob, and that it could one-shot me. I think that's a fun experience for low-level people too. So hopefully they can figure that out, because I think Raffle Bones is a great concept to bring people into the open world, but I think it still needs some tweaking. So this was kind of I would consider this the first of a line of tweaks that Raffle Bones needs, and this is a good one for sure. That about does it for the April update. Again, a lot of quality of life fixes, a lot of bug updates.
It's the least community tested update yet.
Well, yeah, and again, if you're going to put out these bug updates, quote unquote, then you're going to have poor PTR turnout, unfortunately. because a lot of people, I mean, again, you're playing the same game as live. Essentially, why would people want to do that? And that's just the truth. Obviously, we all want a healthy, bug-free game, but at the same time, how bad do we want it? Because no one's going to test the PTR in these circumstances unless
there's always going to be a debate on what level of culpability or involvement should the community be involved in testing.
Yeah.
I think it's important. I think there's like when we can give feedback and help direct changes, I think that's important. But when it comes down to it, it's like it is, in my opinion, should be AGS's responsibility for delivering and actually fixing the bugs. And I think they've had a track record. I would say really since February, I've felt like the game is constantly improving. Issues that I have either gone away or they've improved in some way. I put a bug report in because I still can't get people off my friends list. And I can't add any more because I have 100, quote unquote friends in the game. So I'm just like, all right, I was hoping that'd get fixed with April, but alas, that's where we're at. So there's still some bugs that are plaguing me, but overall my experience has been generally really positive throughout this year.
I agree.
Yeah, and hopefully that holds true with the April update and beyond. All right, guys, well, that about does it for the main topic. Let's hop over to the company of the week. All right, so the company of the week this week is the Pack of Woofs, which is WOOFS, pun intended, I'm sure. Bordy, take it away with the Pack of Wolves.
Yeah, man, the Pack of Woofs, man. Says they're a group of highly motivated but chill players. They welcome people from all walks of life and hope to expand their average of 6 guys. So it sounds like a very small, close-knit group of people, man. They're open to anyone joining, and they appreciate all skill levels. This is their history is just friends looking to have a good time in the game. It says their focus is just level progression and helping progress everyone in the company. They want to progress in crafting and economy domination, is what they say. It says they're also doing a little bit of open world PvE or PvP, and then they're interested in PvE dungeons and raids. So it sounds like they're very much a very chill, like close-knit group of people. So if you're interested in that, go check them out. They're on NA East, and their faction is Marauders. So if you're into that, go check them out. Pack of Woofs is the name of the company.
Yes, and thank you to Pack of Wolves and everybody who's promoted your company over there. Again, guys, just don't, if you have a company over there, just make sure that as all these transfer tokens are going out and you're transferring your companies, make sure that you put the correct server in because people won't be able to find you if we shout you out on the podcast. So yeah, special thanks to Pack of Wolves. Special thanks to Ginger Prime. One more time, Ginger guy, soulless Ginger man,
guy who has a vitamin D deficiency.
yeah. Why don't you tell people where they can find you on the internet?
Yeah, the best and easiest place is Ginger Prime on YouTube. I have multiple what I call sub channels that really kind of focus in on like specific games, and then overall the main channel just I like to cover news, guides. Kind of what discussions are being had within gaming culture, especially around MMORPGs and action RPGs. That tends to be like what I'm passionate about. So it's like, and then there's obviously like it's interesting enough. Destiny and Halo are like two like games that I think I just have a deep love and also frustration with, especially Halo right now. But yeah, if you guys check out my content, that'd be the best place to start. Also, I highly recommend Studio Loot. Like you guys should go check out their YouTube channel. They've been hustling hard, and then also the same thing, newworldfans.com. If you guys aren't using that site, it's a great wealth of resource. So if you so thanks for having me on. I've been following you guys. I don't remember what episode came in. I think it was like 30 or 40. But I've been really enjoying the podcast. I'm happy I could actually be on it for the first time.
Well, it's a pleasure having you finally on here. It's interesting. One quick question before we go: the work to game. You do you stream on that on the Twitch?
Yeah,
account?
that's where I stream on Twitch. Like so, I don't stream that often. I have like you guys, like you're kind of a pair. I have my buddy Chris, and we have work to game, and that's kind of how we ended up getting started as kind of discussions and guide and news and stuff over there. So we have that for Twitch. So we're Twitch partner. And he streams more often than I do because he's what I would call a full-time content creator. I have a job, like I told you guys in the pre-show. Like also, I'm doing stand-up comedy now and things like that. So it's like I have all these like different irons in the fire, but like I'm not I think, ever ready to be like, I'm going to go full-time content creation. I like to have the ability to piss people off, not intentionally pissing them off, but literally telling them like what I think rather than try to appease the algorithm. And I like having that freedom, and but ensures that is a job that's independent of content creation. So like I'm a software engineer. I also dabble in game development as what I studied in college, but also what I like doing as a hobbyist. And so at its core, like it gives me a lot of that freedom. So, but when I do stream on Twitch, I stream on the Work the Game channel just because it just is easier. I don't want to do the partner grind again. Like that was hard. We worked hard on that. And so I either stream on Ginger Prime on YouTube, or if I typically would stream on a Friday on Work the Game. And you'll see me playing New World, Final Fantasy 14 or Destiny is kind of my 3 games that like most likely I would stream. Otherwise, I just kind of play it offline quietly.
Nice. Well, again, it's a pleasure having you, Brian, on the show. And thank you to everyone for listening. We will be back in yours next week, hopefully having tested the PTR, we can talk about arenas and all that stuff with you guys soon. Again, we have more special guests lined up as well on the way. We'll announce later. So thank you guys for listening. We really appreciate it. And we'll see you on another episode of New World to Go.